Senator, you're painting a pretty grim picture here, but I think it's important for our viewers to hear. You're saying that this is a solvable problem, though, so some silver lining there. Let's say you're tapped to be an advisor for either Trump or Harris, whoever wins the election. How are you advising them to bring down the national debt?
Well, first of all, the likelihood that I'm going to get called in by either one of them to give advice is pretty slim. The only way to get it down is, and Bush 1 did this. He cut a deal with the Democrats, and it's a different time, 1990, when he did this. He said, I'll support a small tax increase if you guys will support spending restraints. And it was difficult for both parties. It probably cost him the election when he ran again in 92, but he did it. And all we did in 93 and 97 is to amend that underlying, but in both cases, all three cases, there were things in there you could attack viciously. You could say, I'm for deficit reduction, I'm going to get rid of the debt, but I don't like this little thing in there. It's not going to be perfect. And you're always going to have somebody who's going to be able to say, oh, you put me out of business because you've cut back my subsidy, or you're making life difficult because you're asking me to pay more in taxes. I don't think that's grim at all. I think that's what Americans do at their best. We've had this wonderful celebration about the 75th anniversary of D-Day. My God, those guys sacrificed when they landed on Omaha Beach. I mean, they were risking, and many of them gave their lives. There was no guarantee they were going to get anything out of it, and we benefited from it. I'm not saying anybody has to lay down their life in order to get this done, but it's going to feel that way in politics. So you got to acknowledge that for a Democrat to agree to spending restraint and a Republican to agree to a tax increase is very difficult. And there's a reason it's difficult. And it's not an illogical reason. You can't demonize it. You can't belittle it. I know this is going to be difficult for you, but if you support something that's going to be difficult for you, I'll support something that's difficult for me. And if you got two people of opposite parties, that's the only way it can get done. There's no Democratic roadmap to balancing the budget. There's no Republican roadmap to balancing the budget. There's an American roadmap that includes both parties, but not one that is exclusively one party or the other.
It's almost like you're saying there needs to be a compromise to get something done in government. But before I let you go, I do want to get your comment on a Senate poll.
I am saying that.
You are, which is great. I mean, it's refreshing to hear. Maybe one day we will see that a little bit more. But we are seeing an interesting Senate race in Nebraska. I would love to get your take on it before I let you go. Independent Dan Osborne is ahead of Republican incumbent Deb Fischer by 1 point, according to a recent poll. What's your reaction?
Well, he's an unusually good candidate. He's the all-American candidate. Doesn't wear a tie. He works for a living. Knows how to do machine work, and he's a all-American guy. His problem is going to be money. If he's got money to stay on the air, he's going to be competitive all the way through. If he doesn't, he won't be. But he's a really, really good candidate, really strong. I wouldn't want to run against him for that matter, because he just looks like what everybody says they want.
Senator Bob Kerrey, I appreciate the conversation. I hope you come back on pretty soon, or anytime between now and the election and beyond.
Whenever you ask, just the answer is yes. All you have to do is ask.
Great. Okay. Well, I will definitely take you up on that. Thank you so much for joining me.
Okay. You're welcome.